Let's jump to our next player here, Coach, and let's talk about Rome Odunze. Let's get into the Bears offense a little bit. Lots of transition in Chicago this offseason. We've got Ben Johnson coming in, so the offense looks to be much better. They have heavy investments on the offensive line, basically entirely retooling the interior offensive line. Keenan Allen's now gone. He's only 22 years old. I think this is time. It's Rome Odunze season for me, and I'm going to be buying him anywhere and everywhere I can, which is very difficult because I think you might have him in a league or two. I know some other Chicago fans that we have in leagues have him. So what are you doing with Rome, Coach? I'm interested to hear your take.
Man, I love Rome. I think Ben Johnson's going to help get the most out of Rome. I think the offense is going to improve. Obviously, the verdict's still out on Caleb Williams and how good he can be. I think we're going to find out under Ben Johnson here quickly. That being said, I do think they've got a lot of investment here in Rome Odunze, and they're going to get him the ball, and they're going to go out of their way to get him the ball and get him more touches, especially compared to last year. Like I without a doubt would be trying to buy Rome if I could. I do not have enough shares of him. If I can get them all, I would.
Yeah, I think, like you said, if they could get the ball in his hands more, they're definitely going to try. I mean, it was a disappointing year one for him, no way around it. 101 targets, 54 receptions for 730 yards, only 3 touchdowns. But the Chicago Bears they were in turmoil most of the year. Caleb was running for his life at all times. And you could even argue he was trying to do too much. But I think this is kind of where you see the new coaching staff come in and kind of revamp this offense and make a lot of changes that will be positive for Rome Odunze himself. And, with Keenan Allen gone, there's no denying that Allen had a bunch of targets and a bunch of workload with Caleb. So we'll see if Rome can take over, but he certainly projects to be a guy that's going to see an uptick in targets, an uptick in receptions, certainly yards, and probably even touchdowns.
Well, you saw an offense last year was based around 1 million tunnel screens and bubble screens for DJ Moore. So you're definitely going to see more play action, more balls going down the field, intermediate and deep routes, looking to try to get guys like Rome the ball in space. And I think he's going to capitalize on this new offense.
Yeah, so since we're both buying Rome, that begs the question, what are we willing to pay for Rome Odunze? And when we look at his trade value, I think he's going to fall somewhere between, the 104 to the 107. When you look at wide receiver names that are around him, it's guys like Jordan Addison, Chris Olave, George Pickens, and Zay Flowers, like maybe even Devontae Smith. So there's a lot of established names there, but given the upside of Rome Odunze and his attachment to Caleb Williams, I think I'm going to take Rome over just about all those guys.
Well, let me ask this then, Matt. How do you feel about Ted McMillan, Matthew Golden compared to Rome? Like, would you rather have Rome or would you rather have those guys? So if you're sitting and picking at 104 to 107, that's where you're at.
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of that's going to depend on landing spot. We'll see where they fall in the draft. Most people have Tet being the wide receiver 1 here recently. I've been talking about how I think Golden might be the better player and be the true wide receiver 1 of this class. If Golden went to, I'm trying to think of a landing spot, but if he went to, let's just say he went to New England, I would be very interested in the guy attached to Drake May. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. Tet McMillan could go to New England, but I think I'm still a little more interested in Rome. I'm not quite sure Tet projects to be a true 1 for a team. I think he's going to be a good player, and that's not necessarily something that we should hate too much because there's plenty of guys that are 2s or 1Bs on their team that produce. Guys like T. Higgins. Devontae Smith is a good example of that too, and they're definitely fantasy assets, but I think Rome is just a guy that has so much upside because, like you said, DJ Moore's production, a lot of it is just based on bubble screens, little hitches, just quick passes. And, it's not to say he's a bad player, but I do think his value is just a little bit inflated.
Yeah, I'm with you. The landing spot of those guys certainly matters. But at the same time, I would much rather have Rome than Tet McMillan. That's just me at the moment. I would rather have Rome than Matthew Golden, although I would, landing spot will matter there too a little bit. I just really like Rome's upside. At minimum, to me, that's a coin flip. So if you can do it, then you might as well do it if Rome is a guy that interests you.
Yeah, I mean, It's certainly a guy that both of us are trying to buy. If I had some of those guys we've mentioned, I'd be looking to flip them into Rome, and you might be able to get a plus on top of that. Like, now's the perfect time to take Chris Olave and try and go get Rome Odunze in my eyes. If you've got a pick, and like you said, you're a little uncertain on this wide receiver class, and there's reason to be, you should be, then I would be interested in getting established production and getting a guy that I know is committed to an offense, is going to have a role. And again, a new coaching staff with an established quarterback, new offensive line to give him more time to throw the ball.
Yep, I 100% agree.
Well, let's